Other interesting business news, you have Disney CEO Bob Iger saying that TV channels are not for sale. Now, this comes after a couple months ago where there's kind of a couple rumors saying, well, maybe they're going to sell it to, sell off some legacy media like ABC, ESPN, Disney Channel. Like, maybe they're going to spin off some of those because, again, the cable cutting is real. Every time, I was going to say, I've actually never paid for cable in my life. Ever since I've been renting apartments and renting a house for this podcast, or not this podcast, every podcast is a contributing factor why I chose this rental property. It's one of those instances where I never even thought to ask for cable. And when I'm setting up the internet, they always ask you, oh, do you want to add cable for $20 a month or whatever the rate is? And I always say no, partially because my TV's from 1984, so good old OG, 84, 86 is a Sony Trinitron from when my dad was in college. But it's one of those instances, well, I use it for retro gaming, but it's one of those instances where there's not a lot of value to be brought by cable anymore. And more people are starting to turn those old cable boxes off and just stream everything. Which, again, there's pros and cons to that business model as well. But it's hard to beat the convenience of all these streaming platforms. So I actually was speculating. I thought they would have sold these channels off so they could fund their other initiative known as Disney Plus, their streaming platform, which, again, is still bleeding money for now. The more we talk about it, their losses are mounting, of course, in the billions. But the amount they're losing every fiscal quarter on Disney Plus is decreasing. And then when I say decreasing, I mean it's getting closer to break even. Again, there's still, I think, quite a few fiscal quarters from actually breaking even, yet they'll make a profit on Disney Plus. So it'll be interesting to see if and when they do get to that break point. But apparently they're not going to sell the TV channels to fuel the future initiatives. Now, let's see here. This comes to us thanks to Deadline. And it comes with an interview with Bob Iger. And he said they never intended to affix a for sale sign to ABC, local stations, or other linear networks. And they also know that media coverage of his comments, he maintained a more complex version. He continued to say, quote, the business model that those linear channels rested on and have succeeded on top for decades has been one of the most strategic challenges during the past year since he rejoined the company. Quote, sometimes when I'm looking for a reaction at my own thought process, I like to test that process in public, particularly in ways that I might be able to get a reaction from the investment community, unquote. So is that a nice way of saying you just say something and kind of see what happens to the stock price? Which, I guess that kind of makes sense. I'd be a little worried if I was a shareholder of Disney, because he's basically just testing the water. He goes, oh yeah, I think we're going to sell this. If the stock goes up a lot because of that news, I guess it's fair to say that that's what the community or the investment community would like. So an interesting strategy. I don't know if there are any legalities or nuances if you are or are not allowed to intentionally do that. Now, he also noted that, quote, so my thought was that at the time I would essentially be public with that thought process, unquote. And then he continued to say, like all of our assets, unquote, like all of our assets, we are constantly evaluating what is in their value to the company today, what could be their value tomorrow, and what is their growth business, unquote. Which, I mean, again, based on all those comments, they're not growing. I mean, ESPN is still profitable. They're still making money, but the growth rate in terms of how many people are signing up for these services, no, it's been declining for quite some time, which, again, that makes me wonder, how is this strategically part of your business? I mean, I don't think anyone would say I don't really think they're a core part of Disney. They're part of the legacy. They did help build Disney. And I guess I certainly see a value having something like a Disney Plus channel dedicated to increasing the value, increasing the eyeballs on your intellectual property. And then you can sell more toys, more merchandise, and more ancillary products. But for stuff like ABC and ESPN, some of these things, it almost seems like they should just spin off ESPN and have it be a separate publicly traded company. And hopefully, ideally, they get the politics out of the sports balls, but I don't think that's realistic. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Disney if they actually ever do really sell those legacy media channels, or if they hold on to them for a couple more years and somehow try to gain some more value out of them. We shall see. Thank you, everyone, again, for taking the time to tune in today. Please take the time to subscribe. We're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of December, and your support is greatly appreciated. Also, leaving comments is a great way to leave me some feedback on how I can make the show better and better and improve the quality. Also, and lastly, don't forget to take time to Tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.